You're dancing. Oh man. I still don't know how to do a fade out on that thing, man. I'm sorry, guys. It is after 5 o'clock. It is time for some after hours real estate. I am Chris Pescick. I'm a real estate broker just outside Austin, Texas, in Dripping Springs, Texas. That guy dancing with his son is Steve Babcock. Steve is just kind of jack of all trades. I still have to come up with a good name for your bullion.
The Gold Guru, I think, would work.
Gold Guru. I like Gold Guru.
You can't make up your own name, can you? You're going to have to come up with something on your own. I'm sorry.
Oh, man. I like the Sultan of Silver.
That works too. That works because that's kind of like the Sultan of Swing, and I'm a musician, so that kind of works.
I kind of like both of those. So maybe it's both the Gold Guru, the Sultan of Silver, Hi-O Silver, Steve Babcock. Guys, the whole point behind the show is Steve and I were having a beer during COVID, and we're like, man, people should be able to sit in on conversations like this. So we do this after hours so we can have fine adult beverages, and hopefully you can join us. And we just talk about what's on our mind in the world of real estate and mortgages and gold and silver and precious metals and anything else that's going on with the world. So, my man, what are you drinking today?
Well, I have a first world problem. In that my father-in-law is wonderful and sends us wine. The problem is not that he sends us wine. It's that he sends wine that my wife does not like, which is Chardonnay. And he keeps sending wines despite knowing this, thinking maybe she'll like this one. And a few of them she has, but for the most part, she's not a big fan of the taste of Chardonnay. So I am cleaning up some of these bottles. It's a tough task. I volunteered because I'm a good husband. And I am drinking that right now. It's called Calculated Risk. And I'm drinking that.
The name is appropriate.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna ask you, does she not like the really oaky, buttery Chardonnays? Like, has
Correct.
she had stainless steel Chardonnays?
She does not like any kind of oaky butter or anything. It's just literally the taste of Chardonnay she does not like. She likes a Pinot Grigio kind of thing.
You gotta get her on the stainless ones, man. Gotta get her on the stainless steels.
Maybe. But I'll tell you, it is a problem that we can handle.
Yeah.
It's not. It hasn't been debilitating yet, and so we'll see how it goes. See how that goes. Taking care of things.
I'm drinking a nice whiskey right from down the road in Blanco, Texas. This is Real Spirits. A lot of people know about Real Ale, but a lot of people don't know that they make a fantastic whiskey. So, cheers, my friend.
Yes, sir.
If you're drinking with us at home, Prost.
So good. Okay. Wow, that is really good. I like Chardonnay, so my dad can just keep sending it. That's fine. Don't tell my wife no.
That's right.
So, what's going on in real estate, my friend?
Well, I mean, a couple of things. I'm gonna roll out a couple of things. First of all, if you're watching Mortgage News Daily, guys, which we always tell you, average interest rates right now are a little over 6 1/8, 6.19. That means people with good credit and substantial or reasonable down payments are solidly in the fives at this point. If that's the average, right? That's what average means. So I came across two different headlines on this topic, and I want to lead with those. Guys, if you're new here, we kind of go all over the place, and we're going to end up with, can you actually afford a house, which is the whole reason that you're here, because you saw my thumbnail and my title, and you're like, shit, can I afford a house? But let's start out with these two headlines, because we talk about headlines on here a lot, right? And how headlines can kind of, be misconstrued. And so this is from Housing Wire. And Fannie Mae forecasts a lower mortgage rates ahead and a bump in originations. Okay. Economists forecast rates to gradually fall to 5.9 at the end of.
By the way, for those of you watching, that's like saying we forecast rain is coming and the ground might get wet. Yeah. Like, duh. That's what happens when the rates go down. But sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. And here's the interesting thing. this is from Poly, which is probably an AI thing. Poly's saying that rates today are 6.29%. I don't know who Poly is, but like I wonder what they're using, and it doesn't really tell us. It just says that Fannie Mae's group revised its mortgage rate outlook to 6.3 for 2025. Well, we're already under 6.3, so well, and again, depending on where you're getting your information. Well, here's the second Fannie Mae heading title. Fannie Mae pours cold water on sub 6% mortgage rates.
How can both be true?
I mean, they lower mortgage rates and 5.9 at the end of 2026, but Fannie Mae pours cold water on sub 6. Dude, it is so important to look at where you get your news from. Because if I'm a home buyer and I see this, I'm like, well, shit, I guess we still have high interest rates. And the subtitle says we may have to wait until next year for meaningful relief. If I look at this and I'm going, oh, sweet, rates are coming down. I mean, kind of crazy how these things, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, man?
They forecast lower mortgage rates. They pour water on lower mortgage rates. I think that you should pay attention to the titles of the I'm not the titles, but the by who it is that's writing the articles, by the company names. There you go. Scotsman Guide uses more numbers from what I've learned. They're more mathematically accurate.
And the interesting thing is that they have a lending search tool. Like they are in the business of sending business to lenders.
Right. So Scotsman Guide is for mortgages. Okay. And when they put out news, it's after reading the news press, releases from Fannie Mae, et cetera, or speaking with them directly. Now go to the other one.
It's Housing Wire.
Okay. So Housing Wire, I have never actually followed. They must be a relatively new publication, I'd say within the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I think they're within the last 5.
Okay, 5 years. Who owns them?
That's a great question. Let's find out. Housing Wire is owned by Ryamar Capital, private investment firm founded by this guy in 2016. Housing Wire is a parent company. I mean, I would think somebody that runs an investment capital company would probably have a vested interest in people having a slightly better outlook.
A lot of world events are shaped by perception and not actually facts. And so you wonder, at least I wonder when I read titles like that so obviously contradict each other. The sky is falling, the sky is flying up, right? It can't be both. It's going to be one or the other, right? Or maybe it's a third choice, like the sky's doing nothing. It's just where it was, right? But when you have these wildly different headlines, the next thing I think of is, what are they trying to do? And it almost seems like Housing Wire is trying to, manipulate the market almost by reporting something that's obviously wrong. They can't forecast lower mortgage. Well, they're saying lower mortgage rates ahead and bumps in origination, right? Obviously, that's like it's going to get wet when it rains.
Right.
But that's like me saying, again, when you say forecasts, ahead, that's like me saying there's rain in the future. And when it falls, I'm predicting the ground will get wet. And then I can call myself a genius later. This article specifically names sub 6% mortgage rate hopes, right? It literally gives a number and says how they've poured water on it, meaning they think it'll probably get there, but not until next year or later, right? Something like that, I'm sure.
Well, they're saying they're saying the exact same thing. That's what's funny. If you
not in the title, they're not.
Yeah, and that's my point. If you read through the articles, they're saying the same thing. One of them has a slightly slanted positive look, and then in the subtitle, economists forecast rates to gradually fall to 5.9 at the end of 2026. Okay, and this one has got a slightly negative slant, but they're saying the article themselves is saying the same thing.
The other side of this is who's writing it, right? And not just what their angle is, but from a mortgage perspective, all right, boys, they threw the cold water. It's not going to happen for a while now. We got to wait at least another year. Housing Wire isn't for mortgage lenders. It's for people looking for houses. So, hey, there's good news in the future, but the mortgage lenders are worried about this month and maybe next month. So, there's that too.
And Cheryl's got it right. And you and I've talked about it. People need to stop just reading the title of the article and believing that's what reality is. There's always more to the overall truth than what's in the title article. Yep.
Very true, Cheryl. I believe the term is the devil's in the details, right?
Yes, it is. Okay, my friend, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh, wonderful.
And this is mildly political.
Oh, even better. Great. I love that.
But let's talk about Letitia James's federal fraud charges.
So I know nothing about them, so we're going to have to. I think there was mortgage fraud, meaning misrepresentation, but I don't know much beyond that.
Well, they tell us exactly what it is. Being charged with felony bank fraud, making false statements to a financial institution. Of course, she says she's not guilty. Let me see. Faith strong, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to get to the point. Been under investigation since May over 2023 mortgage. Investigation looked into a loan she took out to help her niece buy a home in Norfolk. Not important. James, top prosecutor. That's not important either. Oh, it is. She's accused of committing bank fraud and lying to a financial institution to secure a favorable mortgage rate. That's part of the question.
Oh, favorable rate means a lot. Go ahead.
New York Post obtains the document signed by James, and she got a second home rider for her mortgage, which attested that the property would be a second home occupied primarily by her. Federal prosecutors say this allowed her to get a better mortgage rate, which netted her nearly $19,000 in mortgage savings. If convicted on the charges, whatever.
Hey, by the way, I want everybody to know that $19,000 in mortgage savings is probably over 30 years because we're not talking about. Keep going.
No, you're good. So the gist of it is she allegedly allowed her grandniece to stay at her home for 5 years, despite, her grandniece evidently is wanted by authorities.
That's separate from mortgage fraud.
Yeah, that's again, I'm trying to get through the stuff that is actually important. Anyway, the long and short of it is she said it was a second home. Her niece has been living in there the whole time, so it's not a second home. So the justification of the lawsuit is that she said that just to get a lower mortgage rate. Now,
second homes don't usually come with much more lower mortgage rates. I mean, they're usually higher rates than your primary mortgage.
Well,
so what she's talking about, hold on. What she's saying is that you would get a second home instead of an investment property, right?
Right.
But I thought I read earlier that say again?
Or she would be a co-signer for her niece who evidently.
Yeah, but I thought I read earlier that she was a co-signer for something. Didn't I read that? Or that she bought the home for her niece?
Well, that's the thing. Her niece moved into it, but she didn't say that.
For those of you watching, when you buy a second home, you do so with the knowledge of the mortgage company that you are going to live in it as not your primary residence. So it will not be afforded the benefits, the tax benefits, et cetera, of a primary residence.
So there's a premium on the interest rates.
Well, yes, but the reason why is that history shows that when times are rough, like back in 2008, people will stop paying for their second mortgage before they'll stop paying for their primary mortgage. So it comes with a higher risk to the banks in times of trouble. Therefore, they charge a higher interest rate, so they make more money on it, theoretically, so that they can offset that risk, right? I say theoretically because it doesn't really work that way.
So you have primary mortgage, you have secondary mortgage, then you have an investment mortgage.
Correct. So investment property
is more risky.
Look, you know what? From my perspective, the second home should be a higher rate than the mortgage. I'm sorry, than the investment property, right? Because at least with the investment, you can rent it out. Here's the little silver lining that most people don't realize. Life happens. Things change, right? If you buy a home as a second home and 3-4 years down the road, you find that you've sold your first home and you move into it. Do you need to call your bank and say, hey, this is now my primary residence? No, not usually. I don't know all of the second the terms for second mortgages, right? But in general, they usually have a clause that states you have to stay here for such and such an amount of time. And then once you do, and from my knowledge or memory, it was about 12 months. So you'd have to live there for about 12 months. And after 12 months, then you would be able to use that property in some other way, some other form. Now, I also, that may not be true on second homes. I know on primary residences, you can then rent them out after 12 months, right? If you do a conventional mortgage, 30-year mortgage.
Right.
Now, again, some companies may have different caveats on that. Look at your paperwork. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other thing that I want to point out on second homes versus investment properties is a second home, you generally have the ability to just do 10% down.
Yeah,
whereas
depending on the house, yeah.
20% down is pretty much mandatory, and in some cases 25. So it doesn't say anything about that in the article, just pointing that out. Like that is another layer.
Well, I will agree that it seems cut and dry that she probably did commit mortgage fraud based on what I've read. I will also put out there that the only way to really catch somebody who's making their payments on time in this kind of situation is for someone to snoop and go out of their way and really investigate. So it seems like this is political retribution for a crime she committed, right? I hate all of what's going on today. I would love if we could all just get along. And I don't mean that in like a utopia, like, hey, bro, kind of way, but like,
right.
I think we all need a little bit of civility, discourse, and respect for one another. And we need to stop just going straight for the jugular every single time. I feel like that is a really big problem these days.
So my question for you overall is this. Are there people that do exactly what she did on a daily basis?
I know that there are, because I've read so many articles and I've heard so many stories. However, I hope to God I never ran into any of them, right? And yes, every now and then you sniff somebody out that's asking some weird questions. I know you have too. And you're like, why would you ask that question? And then they literally, or sometimes no, but sometimes they're literally like, well, trying to see what I can get away with. And you're like, well, then you're not going to be able to work with me then. Sorry. You just don't.
I've had people literally tell me that.
Yeah. I mean, y'all got to understand, if I get accused for murder or something, I get to go to court. I'm presumed innocent until proven guilty, unless I'm on camera, and then the cops, stay in jail, whatever. Great. But the point is if you're Chris or you're me, all it takes is one complaint. And then we are presumed guilty until proven innocent. And a lot of times they don't even care if you're proving yourself innocent. They just make you guilty.
That damn lender, you're taking advantage of the general public.
Right. And so if you get just accused by a 6-year-old child that calls the hotline and says, John Doe, and your name happens to be John Doe, your license is suspended until an investigation is complete.
That's right.
And so you just don't take the chance. You do not take the chance to mess up your license. Otherwise, your career is over, at least temporarily. But from my experience, usually permanently, even if the agent really didn't mess up that much. Sometimes they'll get leeway, but you better have a friend on the board. I mean, and even then, they might even come down harder on you because of it. I mean, they don't joke around.
The board, yeah, seriously. All right, man. Well, let's jump into what I wanted to actually talk about today. I couldn't find any funny stories or anything. So
I looked too. I couldn't either. Letitia James, the only one that shows up because she's all over the airline. She's she's famous, so whatever.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's jump into this. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. I love how they put Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. Like that matters. Anyway, and Zillow say mortgage rates can't fall enough for Americans to afford a home. I just want to stop there, and I want you to give me your thoughts on the title.
They can artificially, but naturally they can't.
That's where your mind goes on this?
No. There's 3 things. I mean, it's killing me, right? So the first one is number one, mortgage rates didn't fall as low as they did last time because of natural causes. It was because of artificial causes. It was the Fed buying the interest rates down, buying bonds, right? Number 2, Americans can afford to buy a home right now. You're being stupid if you think you can't. You just need to talk to Chris. There's lots of different ways to get into a house, lots of different crazy financing options. Huh?
If you have reasonable credit, assets, blah, blah, blah. But yes.
In my experience, you need 2 of the following: money credit and income.
Yeah.
Right. If you can get two of those, you can find a house. And if it's not through Chris, it'd be owner financing. But at the end of the day, you can get into a house, period. So I don't like that. And then,
financing, but anyway, go ahead.
And then I don't really care that they're using Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, which I think is funny, but I do actually find it hysterical because he's about to die. There's no way Warren Buffett stays alive much longer, right? He's like late 90s. Dude's on his way out, right? I don't care who you're talking to. How many years can we live, right? He's on his way out. And that's only an attention-grabbing headline.
That's right. It's only because they put his name in there.
Right. Berkshire Hathaway should be enough, but we have to be told that it's his. And by the way, it wasn't just his a year ago, right? It was Munger and his, but yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Well, and my point on this is, anyway, you said there were three. Go for three.
That was the third. I didn't like the name.
Oh, got you. The first thing that comes to my mind when I see that is exactly what you said. The second thing. Yeah, bullshit. There's affordable houses everywhere. But this article from Fortune magazine tells you in the title, mortgage rates can't fall enough for Americans to afford a home. Okay. Let's see if this was AI written. Okay, that's just.
I'll be 1 minute.
You're good. I'm just going to start reading. Mortgage rates have remained stubbornly high, hovering at more than 6%, well above the sub 3% rates during the pandemic. That makes home ownership increasingly unaffordable for many Americans, as home prices have risen more than 50% since 2020. Holy crap. In the first part of this, we're being told that we need sub 3% rates for houses to be affordable. But the whole reason that we have houses that are expensive as they are because we had sub 3% rates since 2020. I don't know who this woman is. She's a moron. I hope somebody knows her. Who is she? Sydney Lake. Somebody's like, Sydney, you got to come up with an article that gets a lot of clicks. Okay, I'm going to put Warren Buffett in the headline, and I'm going to talk about homeownership being unaffordable. You're an idiot. During the pandemic, homeowners got accustomed to sub 3% mortgage rates, which made purchasing a house feel more achievable. Holy shit, it was free money. Of course it's achievable. But in the past couple of years, buyers have had no such luck. In late 2023, mortgage rates peaked at 8%. They've let up some. They've never hit 8%, by the way. Today's 30-year fixed mortgage is 6.19, according to Mortgage News Daily. But economists and real estate groups have warned that they don't see that figure budging much in the near future, and that makes matters worse. Some have said the mortgage rate it would take to make homes feel affordable again isn't achievable. This summer, Zillow economic analyst, sorry, not pronouncing her name, reported that mortgage rates would need to drop to 4.43% for a typical home to be affordable to an average buyer. But that kind of a rate decline is currently unrealistic. Okay. Meanwhile, not even a 0% interest rate would make a typical home affordable in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, San Francisco, San Diego, or San Jose, she added. Whoever you are, Anushna, that shit wasn't affordable during the pandemic with 2% interest rates. I guess that's kind of what she said. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway also said in early July, mortgage rates are one of the main deterrents for both home buyers and sellers. Many homeowners are reluctant to put their homes on the market and give up the low mortgage rates they already have. That's a fact. To them, high price gains won't mitigate their ability to pay for another home at significantly higher interest rates. Sorry, I've been going off on this, man. And guys, by the way, if y'all are watching, if you got comments on this, let me know. Steve, I'm going to go back and I want to get your thoughts on this first paragraph. Mortgage rates have remained stubbornly high, hovering at more than 6%, well above the sub 3% rates during the pandemic. That makes home ownership increasingly unaffordable for many Americans, and as home prices have risen more than 50% since 2020. So
the rates aren't the problem.
Go on.
Inflation is the problem. The prices of homes are the problem.
Okay, keep going.
When we had 5.5%, 6.5% rates, we didn't see any of these articles, right? When homes were $150,000, it was no big deal. The homes have gone skyrocket high when the government printed a ton of money and gave it to the people.
When did that happen?
2020, bro.
And why
2021.
Why did that happen?
Political
why
favor.
Buying houses.
Political favor. But it was in the name of helping people.
But look, why were people buying houses in 2020?
Well, the rates were low, but also the prices were low.
But what did that lead to?
Look, dude, go online, right? Oh, yeah. Hello. Yeah. Well, fine. But I don't think it did, to be honest with you. Chris is suggesting that the low rates led to higher prices, which of course it did to a certain degree. But those low rates were there for years. We had sub 4% rates for 10 years in a row?
We did. But
at least
what I'm laughing at is how they're saying sub 3% rates is what we need. But when we had that, prices went up 50%.
By the way, they just said they need it. They didn't go up 50% in a year. And they also said if you had 0, it wouldn't be enough. So what do you mean they need 3? Bullshit. You don't need 3. You just told me 0 wasn't enough. What you really want is free housing. Well, I don't like anything about this article. It's just a wah article. It's just about complaining. If you don't like it, then don't take free handouts that increases all of our bills for everything. Right? Last time I went to the grocery store, like 4 years ago, the grocery store was like half the cost it is today. And you're telling me that the problem is the interest rate set by the Fed? Sorry.
The price of eggs is way down, by the way.
Yeah, well, I could talk about that too, but I don't want to get political.
This issue is also referred to as golden handcuffs or the locked-in mortgage rate effect. The idea that current homeowners have no incentive to put their homes on the market, even if they want to move, because they'd forego a much lower interest rate that they had locked in years ago. I keep seeing people bitch about this. Why is this a problem? If the people are happy where they are, if they're able to stay where they are, damn right, hold on to your 3% mortgage rate. Why is this an issue? Because people are selling their houses for shits and giggles?
I moved into my home in January of 2020 and had a 4.0 interest rate. It's 4.0%. If you were at 5%, you could easily buy down to 4%.
Easily. And you can do the same today.
And today, the rates are in the low 6s to high 5s. So you're talking about buying down and being about 1% away from where I was in 2020, and we're going to tell each other the world's blowing up right now? None of this makes any sense. Anyone reading Fortune should cancel their subscription immediately. Keep going.
Causes a litany of other problems in the housing market, namely
I'll tell you what this does make sense for. If your readers are hysterical, if your readers are sure the world is ending and whoever's in charge is just a dipshit, then this article is right up your alley. You will soak up all of this and you will regurgitate all of these so-called facts. And you are a pawn if you are repeating this kind of stuff. Go to the actual mortgage, Scotsman, Scottsdale, that kind of stuff. Go to the actual industry web pages. Get your news from there if you really care.
Yeah. This one, and again, you and I've talked about this on the show before. Like, this is not rocket science to people who watch our show. The home builder unsold completed inventory recently hit a 16-year high, according to Resi Club, which I follow Resi Club. And data from real estate intelligence platform Parcel Labs, I've never heard of, shows the number of active listings on the market this summer rose to 3.06 million, a 4.9% increase from the same time last year.
Isn't that funny? You just told me that half the listings right now from last year. Didn't you say we had about half the listings from last year? Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really funny.
More sellers are delisting their properties after sitting on the market for longer than expected. Okay.
Wow. Yeah. Then how do we have an increase? God,
no shit. Oh, but that's home builder unsold. But here, and that becomes the question. That becomes the friggin' question. Okay. Well, nobody that's in their house wants to sell it. But the home builders have a bunch of unsold inventory. But the home builders are buying down interest rates. And we talked about it last week or the week before. They're buying down interest rates and giving people permanent, like 4.8 interest rates. But you're saying that you can't afford it because interest rates are too high. Home builders are buying them down 1.25. This article is asinine.
Right. It's completely wrong. It's not filled with anything but lies. It's been written on a bed of lies. That's what it's been done. That's what's been happening here.
Sit on a throne of lies.
Yes.
And by the way, homes are sitting on the market nearly 3 weeks longer. Oh my God. 3 weeks longer? That's a sign of sellers still anchored to the pandemic era prices. Wait, is it because of pandemic era prices or is it because of interest rates? Because you just told me two things.
Well, they got that right. It is because of pricing.
Well, yeah.
Your home that was 200 that's now worth 400 and stubbornly sits there and maybe loses like 1,000, gains 1,000, that kind of thing. That's when, I mean, what is the definition of inflating a balloon? Adding air, right? You would add air to the balloon. When you inflate the currency, you add currency. You add dollars to the currency. That inflates the currency. And that's what happens when you give people free money. Everything gets more expensive. It doesn't take rocket science to figure this out. I mean, this is just basic economics 101.
This woman continues to define
what woman?
Mastery. That doesn't mean that there's an influx of housing in the U.S. You just told me that home builders have a huge oversupply of houses. That is the literal definition of influx. Home builders, that is a freaking influx. In fact, we're still short millions of units because you and I read these articles earlier in the year that said that we don't have enough houses. It just means that there aren't enough people who can actually afford to buy a home. I'm going to say there aren't enough people who will look in locations where they can afford to buy a home. I still think this is a consumer thing in this society where we see all this bullshit on TikTok and Instagram. And no. I deserve a house in downtown Austin and I can't afford it because interest rates are high and they want $1 million in a market where they used to be getting $1.5 million. Oh my God, this makes me want to say so many cuss words. I usually don't get this upset about things, but God, this article is asinine. Wait,
It's pretty bad.
This doesn't mean that there's an influx of housing, although inventory levels are increasing.
What else does this person say? Home prices and mortgage rates continue to be a roadblock. Well, that's true.
Yeah, okay. Mortgage rates have remained stubbornly high, Home Services said. It wasn't, what's his name, though? Warren Buffett that said that. It was Home Services. According to an OctoberRealtor.com report, the typical home spent 62 days on the market in July, roughly as long as it took to sell before the pandemic. Holy shit, it's almost like the pandemic was an outlier. Oh my God, do you mean that we're in a normal market?
Yes.
This chick has got to be like, is it Gen Alpha?
Listen, this is the dirty little secret that no one's talking about. Buying a home is difficult for a single person.
Correct.
It is not difficult for most couples.
Shh. Can't say that.
The only issue with me saying that, besides today's political environment, the real issue I have with it is that it has always been that way. It has always been extremely difficult for a single person to afford an entire house by themselves based on an average salary.
But do you know what's changed?
What's changed?
People are staying single a hell of a lot longer now.
Well, they're going to have to rent a hell of a lot longer, or they have to make a ton more money. Think about it. I mean, if you're making like $100,000 a year, you can afford X, Y, and Z. Great. Well, now you're dating somebody who's also making $100,000 a year. You've doubled your income. Of course you can buy more. Of course you can. By the way, you haven't just doubled your income. You've more than doubled it because you guys double up on some of the bills, right? Yeah, they'll use a little bit more electricity, but not double the electricity. Yeah, they'll use a little bit more water, but not double the water, right? Most of those bills only go up a certain percentage. They don't go up 100%, right? Even the water bills, man, you could turn off your water and not use it for a whole month and you'd still get charged for the wastewater and the sewage and all this other stuff, the base costs, right? It's a huge difference when you buy a home with someone else. And by the way, you don't have to be married. I'm not trying to be a jerk, especially with today's, fruitcase, people that are sensitive, but you can go in on a house with a friend. Do you know that? You can buy a home with lots of friends.
Yeah, you don't have to be attached to the person aside from, hey, you want to buy a house together?
Hey, CMG, last I checked, had a really cool program where they'd let your entire wedding party contribute to the down payment of your house. Contribute. Which has typically never been allowed. If they're still doing that program, there's another option for you. I just said it doesn't have to be married, but if you are getting married, man, instead of getting wedding gifts, you literally give them the link to the down payment to the house and say, we are buying a house. And for our wedding gift, we'd prefer you to put a down payment amount towards the purchase of our home. And whoever wants to contribute, whatever they can contribute, whatever, you'll get a list of what they said later. And man, I'm telling you, there are so many ways to skin this cat. You just need to talk to people who know what they're talking about.
Keep talking because I'm making a note for the next short that I'm going to shoot.
Yeah, don't go to CMG. Because that's not me. I guess it isn't
anymore. I'm just going to say that there's programs that will allow your wedding registry to contribute to a down payment on a home.
The truth is, I like CMG. They're just fine. They're a great company. I worked for them for a few years. But anybody watching this should go to Corey Casper at Motto Mortgage. He is the best I have ever run into in my life. And his rates are like almost 1% better than everybody else around us, including a few others I've already mentioned on the show. So there's that. Okay.
And Corey can probably pull off what you just talked about at CMG.
Man, if anybody could, it's him. I just know that CMG had a specific program that got approved to do it. But if they can do it, that means anybody can do it. The question is, do we have the same lawyer verbiage they do? Whatever your company is. But there's no special rules made for certain companies. There's one set of rules. We all have to follow them.
I love this, by the way. So this is the Case-Shiller home price index.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read, they tell you that these areas here that are shaded,
mm-hmm.
those are recessions. And here's the guys, I'm laughing because Steve and I have been talking about how for the last 4 years we've been in a recession, and nobody talks about it. So anyway,
since 2020, 2023. 2022-ish.
Yeah, 22. Yeah, I guess not 4 years, 3 years, a little over 3 years now. Some first-time home buyers are turning to long-term renting or even co-living models. Wait, did you just say that you could buy a home with somebody that you're?
I guess I did. Yep, there you go.
Because the idea of owning a home has become so out of reach that others are relying more on family support to get into the market. We're seeing a reshaping of the housing ladder. So, Steve, we've been going for a while, but I'm going to allow you to wrap this up as a former mortgage professional. Buddy, you and we met each other at the age of 25. We didn't, but say we did. And neither one of us were planning on getting married at any point soon. And we were going to be roommates. And what advice would you give to 25-year-old Chris and Steve when we were going to be roommates and probably going to rent a house?
All day long, duplex.
Would we rent it, Steve?
Say that again.
Would we rent it?
Okay, so, man, I have a lot that I want to say. I hate that you ask me a simple question and I just go off on a tangent.
Which is why I ask you simple questions.
So let's just say that you and I we're going to live in a quadplex, a fourplex, okay? And we're going to live in unit A, and B, C, and D are empty, okay? And you have a bunch of friends, and your friends they've had it with their landlords. They're sick and tired of the high rents, and you're like, look, I'm going to go buy a place, right? If you agree to be a renter in my new place and pay me a first month's rent, right? Then I'll make you a tenant in unit B, C, or D, but I'm going to sleep in unit A. Okay. And we're all friends and we're going to make this work. Great. So you collect the first month's rent from, B, C, and D. Let's say it's $2,000 a person. So now you've collected $6,000 up front. You also had them sign lease agreements, and you take that $6,000 and the lease agreements to a mortgage lender. Now, the mortgage lender will be able to credit you with 75% of whatever they're paying is your income. Okay? So now your mortgage for a 4-unit home just got reduced to about 1.5 units if you calculate how much money they're going to spend on rental, right?
Yep.
And in reality, they're not going to spend 75%. They're going to spend 100% of the rental amount. So you can actually get away with having almost 75% or more of your mortgage paid for you, typically more. And so now you get to move into a home that is a future rental unit. If any of your friends move out, you can find another renter. That's not a problem these days, finding renters, right? You can find another renter. You could sell it if you ever wanted to as an investment property. Those things are hard to find, very, very easy to sell. And I'll tell you, you would pay much less than you would in a single family home. You would have a future home that would literally have people paying off your loan for you while you move into the next one. And then when you get married to somebody later on down the road, you'll be able to let them know that you have an investment property that you smartly invested in 10, 15 years earlier. And by the way, it's paid off now.
Yep.
Or maybe it's not paid off, but half of it is, right? Depending on what your loan amount or your loan term was. I'll tell you, man, if I were young again, the last thing in the world you want to do as a young person, unless you're going to hold on to it, is buy a single family home. Yeah. You have too many changes coming in your life. There's too many things that will hit you, right? Life hasn't even begun yet if you're under 25, right? You haven't had to go through any tough challenges. You haven't had to go through a divorce or a loss of a child or, the actually just children alone. That would just be enough, right? I mean, all these certain things that can happen to you in life. You haven't done any of that stuff. What you should be doing is buying things that make you money for the long run, not things that make you happy in the moment. That's right. And I know that everybody talks about that, but it really is the truth.
Yep. So let's say that I can't qualify, because we talked about it last week. The fourplex that I looked at was a $750,000 fourplex, and my rent on it would have been $2,000. So I would have been buying a $750,000 property for $2,000. But let's say my credit's not good enough, Steve, because I'm only a single person. I have one income. What's my option?
Well, I'm no longer a mortgage lender, so I really shouldn't be answering these questions for you, sir. But you should look to family and see if they will co-sign for you. But for an investment property, that can be kind of tough.
You're thinking too deeply, Steve.
Well, then go answer the question for me then.
Well, I mean, my friend, if you would like to take ownership of half of this property and you and I have incomes that will qualify for this, you and I can buy this together, rent out units together, and be co-owners in a friggin' fourplex.
You can. I always hated that idea because nothing crashes harder than a business partnership. But you're not wrong.
Just have a good attorney to draw up your documents ahead of time.
You see, the way I did it, I had all your friends pay you rent right up front instead of going into any partnerships.
But again, that's assuming that I can qualify for that mortgage.
Touche.
Well, because you're getting 75% credit on. I mean, you're getting $4,500 a month credit. So, I mean,
yes.
It's possible.
Right. So that would be your income based on 3 other 75% rents, right? And then your income on top of that. So your 45 could easily go to 75, $8,000 a month. And then, yeah, you can afford a lot of house with that much income.
But if you don't know, you don't ask, and then you really don't know.
You have no idea, do you?
Nope. Zero. I feel like we're curing cancer here. Not really. That was a bad joke, or a bad
house cancer.
Yeah.
House cancer. Yes.
Yes. House cancer. That's terrible. All right, guys, this is what we do every week. We get off on tangents and we talk about stuff. We usually don't get this angry. At least I don't.
But you don't. I got an angry kid out there. Good time to wrap up.
Good time to wrap up, guys. We will see you next Monday all the time, 5 o'clock. My friend,